Goalie the Goalie Tech Reviews here, and in my hand is the OnePlus Open. Quite possibly, at least in this reviewer's eyes, one of the best phones ever made. Stick around. Welcome back. As I said in the intro, in my hands is the OnePlus Open. I have been, I was quite excited about the Google Pixel Fold for the longest time. Received it, thought it was a great phone, but it still didn't replace the closeness of my heart that I felt for the Surface Duo 1. I get it. Surface Duo 1, old technology, ugly bezels, horrible camera, but a really, really great phone in a sense of how it worked. I loved the hinge system. I think it was still probably the best there was until today. And I just loved how it felt in my hands. It was a great phone. The OnePlus Open is the first phone that actually takes its place, again, in the closeness of my heart. This is now absolutely my number one most favorite phone. I absolutely love it. It is just so fantastic. I mean, everything about this phone is incredible. And it is, again, I just can't see this being beat in some time as far as on the markets go. I know there are lots of people that have the bones to pick about the phone, and I don't disagree with the fact that there may be some software issues and that sort of thing with the phone, but it really is fantastic. And what makes it so fantastic? Well, I'm glad you asked. One of the things is the size. And when I talk about the size, I talk about the physical size of the screen. I talk about how this thing is when it's opened, and the thinness of this phone compared to even the Pixel Fold for that matter, but certainly the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4, which was the last one that I owned. And just the way that this phone feels. So when it comes to the actual physical size, this phone, I don't know that it can be beat. I mean, everything about it is spectacular. It is really, it's incredibly thin. I know it's not as thin as, say, an Honor Magic V2 or those sorts, but it isn't a whole lot off. It's pretty darn close. It is probably the most satisfying hinge, including, you know, the Surface Duo 2. What I actually absolutely love about the hinge system on this phone, and you've seen it a million times in all the reviews, but I just want to really reiterate. And by the way, just so everybody knows, I paid for this phone. I didn't get it from OnePlus. It's not a sponsored video. This is my phone, my opinion, and my feeling about the phone. Going back to that hinge, the hinge system is so incredibly satisfying. When I open this phone up or close it, you get just very similar to that sort of thud that you get with the Surface Duo. The big difference though, and what really makes this phone, in my opinion, special, is the way that it opens up. When you get it past a certain point, I call it past the point of no return, it actually snaps open, and as you can see, and as it has been reported on, it opens perfectly flat, unlike the Pixel Fold, my previous phone. It is just that good. When you close the hinge, it has that same forced close. Like the Pixel Fold, it closes completely shut with no gap in between, so it's very tight. I know that it isn't water resistant. I believe the Galaxy Z Fold 4 is IP8 or something like that. I'm not overly concerned with that. In the end, I'm going to use this phone, you know, maybe out once in a while out in the rain, and if it gets a little wet, I'll be careful to sort of wipe it down when that time comes. But as far as that goes, again, not really concerned with that feature based compared to, for example, the Pixel. Now, of course, the one feature that I really wish this phone had would be wireless charging. I've seen plenty of reviewers out there talk about the wireless charging. Some people are completely sad and upset that it's not there. Some people don't really care and don't use wireless charging too often. I did use it on a fair bit. You know, when I went to bed at night, it would sit on a little charger by my bedside. When I'm in my office, it sits on a charger there. The reality is now I just basically have to change that to a wired charger, which is really not a big deal. For some reason, and I'm not sure why, I got in my car, I unplugged my Android Auto wireless device because I'm like, well, this thing doesn't have wireless, so I guess I can't play it through, and I'll use my USB-C to plug it in. So I plugged it into the USB-C, and all of a sudden, Android Auto wasn't working, and I thought, oh, this is no good. I mean, if I can't have Android Auto to work on this phone, then, you know, it's just not going to cut it. So I did a little bit of investigating, found that there was a setting that allowed you to choose between how the USB input interacts with the plug, and one of those settings, I believe, was MTS or MPC or something like that, / Android Auto. And as soon as I set that setting, it allowed me to do that. And the other thing I found out, by the way, if you go into settings, I don't know if you can see this because I know it's quite a ways from the screen, and you go down to developer settings or developer options, if you go in there, you can actually scroll down a little bit to a point where you're going to see two settings that you can adjust. One of them being default USB configuration and select USB configuration, and it's MTP, by the way, Media Transfer Protocol is what you would use. And then if you go to the second one, which is default USB configuration, you can set that to file transfer / Android Auto, and that gives you the ability to plug it in. Now, I did find that it was actually a little bit on and off. It worked sometimes, sometimes it didn't. So it had me thinking, do I have to take this phone back? I can't believe it. I absolutely love this thing, and I'm so sad that I'm going to have to send it back for something as simple as Android Auto. And the whole time that I've been tempted to order, you know, phones that come over from China, I never did because I needed those Google services, you know, baked in so that Android Auto would work, for example. So, and then all of a sudden, it just dawned on me, right? I just got to plug that Android Auto back in. It's the wireless charging that isn't there, not the wireless connection. So of course, sure enough, plugged it into the wireless Android Auto dongle that I bought, and worked like a charm. So no issues, no problems. So Android Auto works perfect. If you are trying to do it through a wireless plug, just make sure you go in, you hit your build, you know, what is it, 5 times or whatever, until it says you're now a developer. Go into your developer options and then go down to those 2 things that I was talking about. And that will give you the ability to use Android Auto. One thing that I did notice, maybe it's a placebo, maybe it's just me, I'm not really sure, but I did notice that the sound quality, when I was playing music, for example, and I just use YouTube music for when I'm in my car, was noticeably better as well as louder than my Pixel Fold or my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4, right? So I was really actually impressed. So I wanted to know, like, is it just in my car? So I hooked up a pair of headphones, and same thing. I guess the Bluetooth audio level is just higher on this phone, and it plays it through quite a bit nicer. Not to mention that the built-in speakers that this phone have, 3 of them as opposed to 2, sound incredible. And really to the point where if, for example, I'm watching a YouTube video I actually need to lower the volume because it's too loud. And that's the first time that I can actually say that about any phone that I've ever used, you know, candy bar or foldable like this particular one. Um, the other thing that I really like, I read a little bit about the, you know, just the displays and the resolution. Um, one reporter, a reviewer said that you know, the actual screen quality maybe wasn't as good as a Samsung Z Fold product, but I have to tell you, the picture quality or image quality on this phone again is spectacular. HDR videos seem to work great. But there's one thing that I really noticed on this phone, and again, it's not something that you couldn't go out and buy for yourself if you wanted it on your existing phone, but this phone's built-in screen protector seems to be just a slight matte finish. So when you do hold it up to bright light, you don't get that horrible glare that you would get on a normal phone. Like, for example, the Z Fold 4 or the Google Pixel for that matter. The Pixel Fold especially, pardon me, I found was lots of glare, hard to see in really kind of bright light. I can tell you that, and very happy to say, that on the OnePlus Open, there isn't that glare. Now, let's address the glaring issue of the crease, especially on the Pixel Fold and the Z Fold 4. Again, don't have to tell you, crease is glaring, very easy to see. I am one of those people that don't notice it when I'm watching something or using my phone, to a certain point. I do actually notice it, the Z Fold 4 especially, more so, but I can live with it. I'll go ahead and use my phone. I'm happy with it. Nothing seems to be, you know, it's not really an issue. You know, I'm going to just go in here and I'm going to reset the settings up here so that we can go to display and have this thing not shut off every 30 seconds. So let me do that right now. Let's go 30 minutes. So, and I am so happy to say, and again, lots of reviews have spoken to this, but the idea of the crease on this phone is absolutely incredible. And when I say the crease, I really mean the lack thereof. It is I can't understand how Samsung hasn't done this for their phones yet. It is spectacular. I'm just gonna, after all that, I'm gonna shut it off. I don't know if you can actually see there. So is it there? Yeah, it's there. But I'm telling you, it is so minimal, it's almost unnoticeable. It really is that good. Again, without question, it is absolutely the best phone I've ever used when it comes to a crease. In fact, when I look at this thing, I'm almost in awe. Like, I just can't believe, A, how good the screen looks, B, the fact that it's actually, you know, has a slight matte finish. Not enough that, like some of those matte screen protectors that I don't like because they basically take away from the pop of the screen. This still has that. It just gives you that flat matte finish. And the actual crease is just, it's fantastic. In fact, it is almost not impossible, but I would say that it is barely, when you go with your finger over it, hardly can tell it's there. I really am amazed with the crease on this phone. I'm not sure how they did it, what they did, but man, they sure did a bang up job. The OnePlus Open closed case, it is without question the best phone that I've used ever, without question. Some argue that software needs to be, you know, adjusted and fixed, and that it's not as polished as Samsung. Would I agree with that? Sure. But for me, as just a guy who uses his phone every day, whether he's calling clients or you know, reading an email or watching a YouTube video or surfing the net, whoa, almost dropped it. It is, without question, the best phone I've ever used. I absolutely love this thing. I would say this is like a 9.8 out of 10 in a sense of just how it feels. Like just in my hands right now, it feels so good. The camera bump, I don't know what it is, but a lot of the videos make it look big, and don't get me wrong, it is pretty big. But I saw a few reviews where it looked like massive, like this thing was thick and protruding, and just not great. It's really not bad at all. In fact, I do actually find it works very well. It's almost like having a little ring, thingy on there to put your finger into as a sort of a support. And the back, this faux leather finish, I went with the black version, is great for the feel. It's fantastic. The case that comes with the phone, similar material. I actually bought one of those ring stickers so that now with the magnetic stickers, so I can put on one of those stand things, because that's the other thing. I want to be able to hold this thing up and have it stand on its own. And again, like the Pixel Fold, it seems a lot of them are the ones that run along the actual crease on the back, and it just doesn't sit right. It's not balanced. So I really like having the ability of doing that. That actually reminds me of something as I'm looking at this phone. The trade-off from the Pixel Fold to the OnePlus Open are the bezels. I personally was not really too worried about the bezels. I felt they were fine. I kind of, again, loving the Surface Duo, which is all bezel, basically. I really wasn't too worried about it, and I certainly didn't think about it. And I loved the idea that the camera was better and that it was up in the bezel, and it was a good camera, and it wasn't one of those under the screen ones. So I was kind of wondering how I was going to feel about going back to a camera to a phone where the camera was in the screen with the cutout. And to be quite honest with you, again, non-negotiable, not noticeable, really not an issue. Works great. Actually is a fantastic internal camera for the main screen. That's the other thing. I actually went out last night. I do a walk around my neighborhood each night, and just at a neighbor's house, he had a little Christmas display set up with Frosty the Snowman, and this is in like almost pitch dark with a night mode, and this picture it's spectacular. Like I really can't believe it. I haven't taken a lot of photos with this phone so far, so I think that's going to be another video down the road. Because I want to really focus more on what it is. At the end of the day, I'm not a professional photographer. I bought a Nikon Z30 to do my videos, but I want a phone that actually has a great camera, and of course, obviously, the Surface Duo wasn't that phone, but this one certainly is. So I'm going to actually spend some time with that and make another video in regards to how the camera works. So again, when we look sort of at the major components of this phone, right? We have the internal screen, which is bang up awesome, just fantastic. Again, I dare say the best looking visually internal screen that I've ever seen. Big enough that it almost becomes as big as what my Surface Duo was when you combine the two screens without obviously the gap in the middle. The outside screen as well is spectacular. Really, the idea of having the height of a Z Fold 4, but the width of a normal candy bar phone to type on, etc., is fantastic. The fact that it gives you that comfort that you need when you're actually using the external screen is just great. Now, it's not obviously quite as wide as what that Pixel Fold was, but it is pretty dang good nonetheless. When we look at the hinge itself, compared to the thickness of the Z Fold, and that would seem to be, in my opinion anyways, the massive hinge that you had on that phone, And I know now there's the Z Fold 5. It's thinner, it's better, it closes fully, whatever. But even just the feel of this hinge and how it opens and closes is just spectacular. Again, when we talk about everything that makes it good, the idea of how this thing opens and closes and how it feels when you do that is unbeatable. Again, talking about that snap that you get when this thing opens. And again, I had the Pixel Fold for a month and a half or 2 months, and I really got to the point where I was quite disappointed with how that hinge system worked, because it didn't lay flat. Yes, you could force it open. I really never knew how much could I force open it. So I didn't go probably as far as I could, and that's, whatever, that is what it is. But it still never closed or laid perfectly flat. So we have the screen, we have the hinge, we have the bezels being fantastic, we have a camera that so far has proven to be spectacular, we have a great internal screen, we have a phone that really is so incredibly thin that even when you close it, is that much thicker than the old candy bar phones that we use. When I say old, I don't mean just like old. I mean Samsung S24 or 23 Ultra. Not a whole lot thicker. And the fact that this is a foldable phone that gives you a standard normal phone on the inside with a foldable I guess tablet, for the lack of a better word, on the inside is hard to believe. So I think as far as this video goes, we'll leave it there. If I come up with anything further that I want to add, I will be doing a second video, again, as I said earlier, on the cameras. If you guys have any questions, if there's anything that you want to know about this phone, if you just haven't been able to actually get out there and get one. By the way, I was going to order it from OnePlus, but I was like, oh, now I got to wait. I sold my Pixel Fold. I was using my Surface Duo, and just happened to look on Best Buy Canada, and there it was. It was actually being sold on Best Buy, and not only was it being sold, it was in stock at the Uptown location in Victoria, where I live. So I was able to, on my lunch break, I'm about literally 10 minutes from Best Buy Uptown, drove out, picked it up, came back, and had myself a OnePlus Open, and didn't have to wait for the delivery. So everything was just great. It just all sort of fell into play. You already know it comes with the 67 watt, I believe it is, charger, which is ridiculously fast. I even love the little graphic that you get when it charges. Looks really cool. It comes with the red cable. You can be a part of the red cable gang. Sign up, join in. You can be a red cable guy, which I embarrassingly have to admit I did. And then the case, and again the cover, and to be honest with you, it's a pretty decent little case, right? I mean, it offers all the protection I need. It gives me the space to put that magnetic sticker on my thing, so I can actually on the back, so that I can actually use it as a stand. And it's actually a really nice case. Doesn't add a lot of bulk. There's really nothing bad at all to say about it. So everything about this experience, including the initial opening of that box and it lifts it up and kind of presents it to you, was incredible and a really great experience. So I have to say to OnePlus / Oppo, you guys have done an amazing job. I can't see how you could have made, quite honestly, if this phone had wireless charging, there would be nothing that would come close to it. I already think that's the case. If you put wireless charging on this phone, that's it. Like it's top notch. I don't use a lot of split screen and all that kind of stuff, but it's all there. It works. So it is, again, I have had phones all the way back to the 80s when I worked for Sony, and we had these little square phones with a little flip out antenna, and I can't remember the name of it. And of course it wasn't smart, other than it had, you could put 100 phone numbers in it. All the way up to this. And of all of those years, almost 40 years of owning technology, this thing is the most incredible phone I've ever used. Do not be worried about ordering it or buying it. You will be nothing but happy, or at least I should say, I'm nothing but happy. For the most part, I think people out there will feel the same. It's fantastic, it's hard to beat, and I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Again, I say it every time, grateful for you to stop by and take the time. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon, click the like, and leave me some comments. Tell me what you'd like to, or ask me if you have any questions that you'd like to know. Tell me what you want to know. What can I do better on my channel, etc. And in the meantime, I hope you guys all have a great night. Take a look at this phone. If you get a chance to touch it, to feel it, to hold it, please do, because it'll knock your socks off without question. Yeah, take care and thanks again.